Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network as the best ball playoffs kicked off. And boy, a lot of the players that might have guided you to win your pod disappeared. It was a wild week in the best ball streets, and of course, a wild week when betting the NFL. JC Zargo, I had a rough week, but from talking before the show, it sounds like you had a pretty good week. What did you think of this weekend's NFL action?
It was stellar, man, and I'm reminded that, I don't know, it's just in all sports. It seems like the later in the season, the better it is. You just got a better feel for these teams, or at least I do. Did incredible. My only real loser was the Steelers, and Miami let me down. But other than that, man, I just killed it. Very entertaining day of football. Normally, not this many important games this late in the season. We got about a finished playoff picture, but seeding very much up for grabs, and it'll definitely be an interesting last few weeks.
All right. Well, let's dive right in. And of course, we'll start with the Thursday night football game that was not very exciting at all. And I'm talking about the Los Angeles Rams, who defeated the San Francisco 49ers, essentially ending the 49ers season. Linebacker Devondre Campbell ended his career by refusing to go in the game. In the NBA, you might be able to pull that stunt, not in the NFL. I'll be really surprised if another team picks him up. So interesting decision by that man. And, the 49ers have an interesting dilemma here, right? Because it's not like when we argue about Tua Tagovailoa, right? It's not that I think he's a bad quarterback. I just think that when you pay that much for a player that's not elite, it's hard to put the proper pieces around him. And I think the 49ers are now going to reach that same dilemma with Brock Purdy because, while I think he's a good player, and I actually do think he's kind of underrated and unfairly regarded as, beneficiary of the system, as if all good football players aren't part of good systems. It is the ultimate team game. If they put that much salary cap into Purdy, this team's in trouble. The 49ers are at a crossroad, and don't look now with the Seahawks laying an egg on Sunday night. The Rams are now in first place in the NFC West, which if you had asked me 3 or 4 weeks ago, especially coming off that bad loss to Miami, how bad did they look in that game, right? Now the Rams might be that team that nobody wants to face, right? They almost got the upset in the wild card week last year. What were your thoughts on the 49ers and the Rams, and where do you see this 49ers franchise going forward?
Man, that was a doozy of a game. I don't know who someone said if that was the first game of football ever played, they'd probably never play a second one. It was a weird game. Especially too, after it stopped raining at halftime, I expected the second half to kind of be a little more up-tempo, more we expected Seattle's game. But that was abysmal. But, the Rams found a way to win, and they just seem to be a team. It's kind of like in baseball, teams get hot at the right time. That's what the Rams have done 2 years in a row. So I completely agree. They're very much live. San Francisco has a lot of issues. Realistically, they might have to blow it up, at least the offense, because Debo's not that guy anymore. I don't know what you do with Purdy, but I'm on the same page with you as far as paying quarterbacks. Over the past 20 years, there have been 3 quarterbacks that have won a Super Bowl on big deals that weren't named Mahomes or Brady. So I just don't think you're going to put together a Super Bowl roster with Brock Purdy if he's number 1 on the payroll. So I don't really know what the solution is there. The Rams, though, they look good. They're absolutely live in that NFC that appears to have some holes outside of Philly. So, I said it every week now for 4 weeks. Every time I think I got the NFC West figured out, something else shakes up. So right now I love the Rams, but next week I could be back on the Cardinals. Who knows?
The Cardinals?
I don't think the Seahawks are legit, so it's definitely either the Cardinals or the Rams out of that division.
Huh. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I was disappointed in Seattle. We'll save that game in a bit.
Okay.
But boy, not the fact that they lost to Green Bay, but the manner in which they lost, I thought was really rough. So let's move to Sunday morning. The first game, I don't know. So some of these we'll just skip over real quick. Ravens, Giants, any thoughts? None for me. Okay. Fair enough. Ravens covered the spread. Bengals, Titans, any thoughts? None for me.
I don't think I'll watch the second of that game.
technically the Bengals aren't out of contention yet.
That's true.
They didn't have the best offense of all the teams not in contention. All right. But other than that, not much to say here.
Like everyone they needed to lose lost. I got the playoff picture right here. So they are okay. Never mind. They got the same odds as Miami. They got a 6% chance. They're 6-8. Yeah, they'd have to win out, and the Chargers or Broncos would have to lose out. So technically a lot.
And I know we write for different sites, but we both write up the Thursday night game. Have you started your Thursday night game preview yet?
I have not.
I just finished mine.
Overachiever. We're still in week 15, and you're talking about week 16.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, Chargers are in trouble. I mean, it's not that crazy, the idea that they could kind of fall off the face of the earth. All right, let's give Tyler his flowers. If he was here, we would say great job, because I think you were with me. I think, the whole world liked the Panthers except for Tyler. And, he planted his flag on the did you like the Cowboys there too?
I didn't have an opinion on that game.
So I didn't bet it because he talked me off, and I haven't done a good job going head to head with him this year. If he would have said Panthers, I probably would have been on there with him. But he was pretty adamant that he thought that Dallas was being a little underrated and Carolina was being a little overrated. And I'll tell you what. So it's not a big deal if the Panthers lose, but they had 3 really close losses where they are competitive, and they probably have to be disappointed. That this was the first time they've been blown out in about 4 to 5 weeks.
Yeah, that was funny. I just had no interest in laying points with the Carolina Panthers, but I wasn't going to jump on the Cowboys. So that was one I had just no opinion and stayed off of. And I don't know. There really was no result in this game that I'd have been shocked with.
Yeah. All right. And one that we got wrong, we took the points with the Browns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if you did, but we did. And the major story from that game, JC, is the Patrick Mahomes injury.
Yes.
Now here's the deal: the 13-1. I would think they should sit him out the next 2 games, because they play this Saturday against Houston, and then I think they have to turn around and play on a Wednesday because they play on Christmas Day. So if I were them, I would sit them both those games.
Which is it? I thought you said both. I thought you just said first play and then you said sit him.
No, I would think that he's going to sit out in both those games.
Yeah.
What's the point?
You're right. No. Wednesday they got to play the Steelers.
Yeah, but why would you put him out there against the Steelers?
I mean, I think you got to find out what happens this week, because right now they're only a game up on the Bills. No, they're still 2. I'm sorry, they're still 2 games up.
Yeah, so if I were them, I would let him get completely healthy.
I think you see how this week goes, see what the Bills do, how terrible Wentz looks. I didn't even know he was still in the league. And then you can kind of think about what you want to do against the Steelers. Maybe just rest him, and then worst case, you got to run him out there against the Broncos for the final game.
Yeah, so that was the big story in that game. And the Chiefs cover. Good for them. I hadn't seen that for a while. Your Miami Dolphins fell to the Houston Texans, and now one of our favorite bones of contention is Mike McDaniels against good teams. 3-13 now against teams over 500. But I know you're here to defend your guy. So tell me why I should still believe in this guy, even though he can't beat a winning team.
Yeah. So there's a lot on the line for this game, and I was talking about it all week. And naturally, the Dolphins found a way to lose that is just a different way to lose. And now, it's I don't know. You can defend it because they lost because of some very untimely picks by Tua Tagovailoa, and that is the storyline in this one. They were driving, looked like they were going to score a touchdown before halftime. He throws the interception, boom, they bring it downfield. That should have been a pick 6. They stop him, defense with a crazy goal line stance there to hold them to 3. They're down 8, driving at the end of the game. Boom, he throws another untimely interception, and that finishes the game. So I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this. I mean, this loss is certainly not on McDaniel because of those INTs that were 100% on Tua. I mean, like it wasn't. It was. They weren't bad throws. It was just like a poor throwing decision, right? It wasn't on how he threw it. It wasn't on, oh, that was great coverage. It wasn't a tip ball. Like it was just, I don't know why he made those throws. He just had no business making them. So, man, I don't know. I don't know what to do with this team. I don't know what next season looks like. I don't think they're quite in. I don't say you blow it up. I don't say you rebuild, but I don't know what this team needs to get to that next level. And I mean, man, when you talk about teams that miss the playoffs, I think they're far above everyone else, but they certainly are on a completely different level than those playoff teams. So I don't know what it's going to take to fix this squad. But Spread, I'm sure you can tell me.
I don't know what they do either because they're stuck in that Tua contract. And I mean, I don't know. So to me, in my mind, the problem with this team is always the defense. But that wasn't the problem this week. I mean, they only gave up 20 to Houston. Were you watching that game? Like, boy, our defense sucks, right? I mean, it was clearly on the offense. However, I mean, Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions in one game too, right? I mean, it's not like we can just completely give up on this offense because Tua had a bad day. I'm still not a believer in this team overall, but I think as they're currently constructed with the way they've allocated their salary, they're just going to have to keep going forward with this build. As the Dolphins fan, are you concerned that maybe, when you have a guy with like elite speed that's an athlete-based guy, and we see this in the NBA with these super athletic point guards when they hit 30 and then they just become kind of below average because they're so reliant on athleticism. Are you worried that we've seen the best from Tyreek Hill and it's going to be the Jalen Waddle show going forward?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't know if it's Tua's decision. I don't know if it's the play calling. I don't know what the deal is that like half of their plays are just like screens to Devon A-Chain. Like I don't know why they're not like Hill's not even getting targets. Waddle's not getting that many targets. They just stopped opening up the field to Tua. So I don't really know what that's about. I don't know if that's kind of the move they've had to make because that's how the defense is saying, we'll give you those 5 yards to A-Chain every time. We're just not going to like open up the deep ball. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I mean, this offense has lost that aspect. So certainly concerning. I do want to ask you though, because sure. I mean, Tua is not a top 5 quarterback, but realistically, again, if you're not going to get a top 5 QB, like who do you really think there's someone out there that can make this offense?
No, that's why you got to keep going forward with what they have. But
I'm just saying, like, I understand he's not like that level of guy, but I mean, again, I think that's just kind of the problem in the NFL is if you don't win the lottery with your quarterback, like I don't think I don't know if you would put like I don't think Jordan Love would make this team drastically better.
I think he's better.
Right, but does he make? But I think maybe. I mean, sure, but I don't think he's gonna like wow, this team's now.
Yeah, no, you're right. I don't think the problem is that. I mean, and we talk about those screens to A-Chain. I think that comes down to losing depth on the offensive line, and maybe McDaniels doesn't have the confidence, and so they're doing the old West Coast trick. Well, we can't line up and run the ball. This will be our run. This is our way of running the ball.
Sure.
But less pressure on the offensive linemen. A lot of problems down there in Miami, but of course in the NFL things can turn around quick. They're going to have to just nail draft picks, especially I would say
they
in
don't
the trenches.
Do well.
Yeah, they've got to draft. If I'm Miami, I'm hoping to get 2 or 3 linemen. I don't care what side of the ball in the first 2 picks, and hopefully get all 3. Yeah. So, what do you think of the Texans, bro? So it's so funny when we think about AFC contenders, we never mention them, but they're going to win their division and they're 9-5. They're well coached. They have a good quarterback. They got a balanced offense. Every team has weaknesses at this point, right? So I'd say the weakness is the middle of their offensive line, but other than Detroit and Indianapolis and maybe a couple other teams on top of my head, who doesn't have offensive line issues with the way the new CBA is set up and these guys can't practice. So I watching that, I was kind of thinking, as much as I want to dump on Miami, I go, you know what? Maybe we're kind of undervaluing the Texans a bit. Would it be that wild if, they sneak in? They should get a home game in the first round, right? I could see them getting upset in the second round of the playoffs and being in the AFC Championship. I don't think it's that wild. Are we undervaluing the Texans, JC?
No, it's really funny. This is exactly what I said too last week. I said, and then even if Texas wins this game, it's not, it's not a significant win for the Texans. So it's not going to help their stock because that's what I've been saying, right? I mean, they've clinched their playoff spot. Let's see here. Who would they be playing?
But I would say in the NFL, every sport, but you have to win the games you're supposed to win.
No, for sure.
That,
but
right?
saying,
like how many teams do we, I think if the Bengals didn't lose to the Patriots, which we look back, that they'd be 7-7, and they'd be we got to give them credit for beating the teams they're supposed to win, even though
absolutely. But I'm just saying, it doesn't help their resume. It doesn't give any more confidence. I mean, right now they match up with the Ravens in the first round. I don't think anyone would be running to bet the Texans in that matchup.
Really, I think that's a fairly good matchup for them because their offensive base and the Ravens' problem is in their secondary.
I mean, potentially it would still be a good game, but still, I mean, in Houston, so what you think, it's a 3-point or a 5-point game?
Well, if they play Baltimore, it might be in Houston, huh?
It would be because Houston won their division.
I'd say Baltimore would be favored by 2.
Oh, I'm hammering that.
Yeah. Meg says, I don't think the Texans will do much in the playoffs. They could get upset by one of the wildcard teams. I wouldn't be that surprised either. So here's what I'm saying with this team. We kind of don't talk about them at all, but they could be knocked out in the first round. But I just don't think it's that crazy they make the AFC Championship.
Well, I mean, okay. Also, too, both the Ravens and Broncos are 9-5, so also they could face the Broncos. That's a way more favorable matchup. Yeah, I might.
They'll smoke the Broncos. I mean, as much as I love the Bo Nix and the Sean Payton, they are playing a last place schedule, and I mean, just don't have much firepower, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the unfortunate part of how the NFL playoffs are set up. Is that it is that team. There's always one division. The division winner is way worse than the other 3, and then they got to play the top wildcard team. That top wildcard team is normally one of the best teams in the league, and so it's just unfavorable and unfortunate. But that's likely the way it's going to shake out. I
kind of like it though because it makes the division play so.
I completely agree. I wouldn't have it like I wouldn't. I'm not suggesting to change it. Win your division, you deserve a home playoff game, but that's what the result is. But then you get stuff like Beastquake, and every now and again you get some wild upset.
Yeah, that's why I think it's fun, right? So, okay. Well, I just wanted to point out of all the playoff teams, it doesn't feel like we talk about the Texans at all.
At all.
And they could be a team that really upsets the apple cart, so to speak.
For sure.
Meg, another good point here. That we actually will see that game in Week 17, JC. So we'll get a chance to preview that and take some stands and see where we land.
I'm sure we'll. I don't know.
Yeah, Clyde loves Baltimore. It means Texans even have a better chance. Just kidding, Clyde. Good to see you in the chat today.
I mean, I think in that game, Baltimore will probably be playing for something Houston won't. So if they're smart, they'll sit their guys and not really give them a good look.
Especially if they know they're going to play the week after.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Next game on the docket. So we actually talked about a game. We're going to skip a bunch of these. Jets, Jaguars, I kind of want to skip, but I know I see Meg in the chat. So, and this is the thing with older players, especially in the NBA. Usually a lot of times they can find that form of greatness. And as someone who drafted a ton of Devontae Adams, I just loved him there. And I was originally thinking he was going to be on the Raiders and their offense was going to be better and he was going to be a target hog. He actually popped me in a couple DK pods there to get me past because he was my most exposed player in the second round. So that was kind of fun for me to see. Other than that, I didn't have a lot of takeaways from that game. I mean, do you think that the Jets, they're going to bring Rodgers and Adams back now because they beat the Jaguars? I mean, is there anything to talk about here?
No, I didn't watch hardly any of this game. It was. I mean, a decimated Jacksonville team going up against the Jets team. That's, I don't think they still have something to prove. I don't really know what they're playing for at this point.
Rodgers and Adams were probably playing for jobs, right? I mean, gotta.
I mean, I don't know. Are they? I don't know. Adams.
Well, I don't know. Do you think they've already decided they're moving on no matter what, or do you think there's a chance they bring him back? I mean, he is under contract, and we just talked about earlier with the Tua dilemma, right? Hey, we might not think that he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback or he can win the NFL, but he's the best damn option out there. Where are the Jets going to go?
I think their decisions are probably made, and I don't think anything they do these next 3 weeks will affect much of anything.
Okay, so you think the decision's made and Rodgers is gone?
Whatever.
Rodgers plays it all next year? I can't see a team bringing him. I guess we talk about quarterback play being so bad. Where would he go? Tennessee? Who's set up?
I kind of assumed he'd just run it back with the Jets. Or he doesn't play. Or he retires.
Well, so the original report 2 weeks ago is they weren't going to bring him back no matter what. Now he comes out, throws for 289, 3 touchdowns, and you see the chemistry between him and Adams. You might think, even though it's not ideal, it's your best possible option.
Agreed. I mean, they've said they're going to draft someone. We know Rodgers doesn't like.
Well, where are they going to draft? Who are they going to get? Drew Allard just went back to school today.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's such a lottery, the draft. So who knows? I mean, maybe
as much as I love coming on here and bagging on Rodgers, I don't see any of these players not named Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward coming out and outperforming what Rodgers is giving you right now. Their rookie.
Yeah, but I mean, there's always a Tom Brady, a Brock Purdy. There's always a chance.
Yeah, but both those guys actually came from good organizations. I don't think the Jets organization can produce that.
That's fair. And
does Brock Purdy become Brock Purdy in New York? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Does it become Brock Purdy in Las Vegas? I don't think so. I think he was coached really well. He was given great opportunities, and now, right, it was allowing him to develop.
But it's a really good team. That's got to help some.
Is it?
I mean, it's better than a.
I mean, the defense is terrible now that Salah's gone.
It's better than the teams drafting at the top.
Yeah, I guess. And they are 4-10. I mean, they could get a top 10 pick.
Yeah. So maybe you trade up.
But I mean, so I don't know. Obviously, neither you and I are scouts, right? We're better at numbers and handicapping the market, right? I mean, you and I aren't breaking down a cover 3 zone and saying we should have used a 2 tight end set going against it. But even Cam Ward, does he come in and change his team? I don't think so.
I don't know. I mean, the thing that I keep going back to is they had a better record with Zach Wilson.
Yeah, but that's because, and that's where Rodgers, why did he get the coach fired? You not screw their defense up. Sure. And the whole idea was we're this good team. We have this great defense. We're wasting it. And then you jettison the architect of the defense for what? So I don't know. Okay, enough about the Jets. We can just make fun of them later. Commanders did not cover against the Saints. What did you think?
Man, I'll tell you what. I had Washington cover the first half. They did, and then I stopped paying attention to that game.
So obviously there was a little controversy there towards the end that allowed them to cover.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as both teams going forward, I mean, they are what they are. I think it's important the Commanders actually got the win.
Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy. They're at 9-5, and they would be 7th right now. They would play the Eagles in the first round if the season ended today.
Isn't that something? No, they would. Oh, yeah, they would. Yeah. But, I mean, granted, they're tied with the Lions, so we don't know who's going to get the bye. But, yes, at the moment, the Lions have the tiebreaker.
At this point, if I'm the Commanders, I want to face the Lions, not the Eagles.
I mean, I think right now –
that poor Lions fan base. You know what? Let's just get to that game right now. Enough about the Commanders. The 48-42 win. This was not nearly as close as it looked. And the Lions, I'm not a Lions fan. I did love Barry Sanders growing up. I had a Lions hat that I wore to middle school because of Barry Sanders. But you know me, multiple teams, right? They got to be crushed. They continue to suffer injuries, and now they lost a corner. I mean, it's just too bad. This team was set up. They're probably the best constructed team in football, as well as balance. You know, obviously Goff can't carry a team, but they had built towards his strengths perfectly. Great offensive line to sit and play in the pocket. Playmakers with Williams, St. Brown, and Laporta for him to throw the ball to. A two-headed running attack. We didn't even talk about David Montgomery, which is going to cost me my one underdog team that's going to advance. I think is dead now because I'm really reliant on Montgomery. I feel really bad for the Lions. And, of course, we're going to give the Buffalo Bills credit because I didn't think that they were going to bounce back very well off that loss. I thought the Lions were going to beat them up on the ground, and they didn't. JC, give me your thoughts on that game, and then I got one more thing on this game that's kind of unrelated.
I mean, this game went exactly as I predicted. I said the over is going to cash, and it's going to be an ugly win by Buffalo. I only went as far as to go -3. I predicted a touchdown victory, which, I mean, you know, they won by 6 and some garbage time points by Detroit. But this team is injury riddled. They've been sneaking out of each week. I do give some I acknowledge the fact that those were back-to-back games against divisional opponents, so you got to weigh those differently. But still, they just weren't as sharp. And this is another thing we see every season. A juggernaut team just get hammered with injuries, and then by the time the playoffs roll around, they are a fraction of what they once were. And it is very unfortunate because there's going to be
cool and you know what? If it was someone like the Patriots or the 49ers, who actually probably kind of apply here, right?
Yeah.
But they had success for the majority of my life.
Yeah. I mean, that's
but for this Lions fan base that have just been the worst team in the league for as long as I can remember, they finally have hope. They finally do things the right way. And now to see it all torn away from them from randomness, right? It's not like I'm not blaming the team trainer or the strength and conditioning coach. It just seems like it's bad luck. I feel really bad for him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's something maybe that has to be said for how they run these boys. I mean, because you see, I mean, they've just been running up the score week after week. And then you look at a team like Kansas City, that they're just sneaking out with wins. But at the end of the day, they're in the same playoff position. And I mean,
but I don't think running up the score is the reason they're getting injured. Do you?
I mean, I think I don't know, man. I mean, they're just playing hard for.
I think it's bad luck.
Say what?
I think it's just bad luck.
I mean, that's a huge part of it too. But I think there's maybe something to be said for that.
Because a lot of times, even when they're running up the score, they're just running the ball, and they just have the best rushing attack in the league.
Yeah. I don't know. Regardless, it's unfortunate. And you know, I also saw this coming because I think the Buffalo's best team in the AFC, and so just with those injuries, I just felt like this was what was going to happen, and sure enough, it did, and things got even worse for Detroit. I don't know what the outlook is with like any of their injuries. Do you, like, as far as what their roster could look like by the time the playoffs come?
They could get, you know, some players back. But I mean, they've lost like 10, and I think maybe 4 could come back.
Yeah.
I actually saw it earlier today. I just can't remember off the top of my head. You know, there's some guys that are scheduled to be able to come back.
I mean, it's one of the things that'll probably be similar to last year. Like, they could, with the roster they have, they could probably still make it to the NFC Championship game, but they're not going to beat the Eagles. I think.
Yeah, well, Eagles, if they get that far, anything can happen. But yeah, I got to feel bad for this team, and I agree with you.
Head and shoulders above everybody in the NFC.
Yeah, you know what? I hate to admit it, but I think you're right, dude.
Oh, I hate to say it, but yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how annoying is that, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Here's my final thought on that game. So remember that new kickoff rule, and we kind of talked about it in the offseason, and I remember I kind of, I don't really think it's a big deal. You know, some people were saying, maybe it'll pitch the totals higher because, you know, returns could be farther and, you know, less field position and more return touchdowns. Well, it hasn't been that way at all. It doesn't seem to have affected the game at all until this Sunday I felt it because if Campbell could have tried that onside kick as a surprise, because it surprised me even when he lined up for it.
Yeah, for sure.
It actually could have worked.
Yeah.
But by having to announce it, it's a less than 5% chance now.
Yeah, that was a rule that I think everyone acknowledged was stupid and to kind of
now I'm against the new rules because it didn't really affect us most of the season, but in a spot like that, and I was thinking back, I talked about Sean Payton earlier and gave him his flowers. Sean Payton, right? How much different is his legacy if he's not able to pull off that onside kick in the Super Bowl?
Right. No,
which was I know analytics say momentum doesn't exist, but tell me that they look like they, all took a bunch of uppers on the sideline after getting that, right? I mean, that taught with a shot of adrenaline, mainlining coffee into their veins. So that was a little disappointing for me. And the first time that rule changed really to me, I said, you know what? I don't like this new rule.
That was exactly my thought. When the rule came out, I thought the negative impact of the onside kick will be great.
I literally didn't even think about it. So,
yeah, no, I mean, just you heard announcing the onside kick. I was like, okay, you got to announce onside kick,
But most of the time, it doesn't matter, right? Let's say they were down by 10. There's less than a minute to go. Everyone knows they're going to onside, right?
Yeah, but even still, I think I don't know, a lot of the times you see successful onside kick. It's in the moment when you might expect one, but they're the lineup. They line up like they're not going to do it, so then it does kind of throw the defense for a loop.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that was my thoughts on that game, and too bad for Detroit. And let's give Buffalo their props. Oh, final thought on that game, JC. Tell me, Josh Allen's not the MVP. I mean, he has to be the MVP, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's not even close. I don't even know.
I'm glad we agree there.
Even put in that category.
Okay. The Denver Broncos. This game was a lot closer than the final score. So the Buffalo game was the opposite. The Buffalo game was not as close as the final score. You just looked at the final score and said, "Oh man, I missed a great game." Not really. I fell asleep at halftime. The Broncos. They put up 24 points in the second half after going into halftime 13-7. And a lot of that, as much as Bo Nix and, want to be a pom-poms, it's basically just the Colts' mistakes. Jonathan Taylor made a terrible mistake. And then, of course, I don't know what that trick play was, but that pretty much sealed their fate. Of course, we'll give the Broncos credit for a win, but boy, didn't that feel like a Colts loss more than a Broncos win?
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, I didn't really watch much of this game, but I'm like, oh, wow, Indy's got a lead. This is crazy. And then Denver stormed back. Don't have too many thoughts. And it's a game I thought Denver would win. And to the Bo Nix, your credit to your guy, he had a comeback win, which is something he was missing on his resume.
But I mean, he had a lot of help from some bad decisions by the Indianapolis Colts.
For sure.
Yeah. So, okay, I already did mine. If I had to press you right now, who do you like in that Thursday night game? Oh wait, no, let's talk about the Chargers first, and then I'll ask you. So the Chargers lost 40-17, bro. I'm not surprised they lost. I am surprised they lost in that fashion, and they couldn't. That defense. This team is going to be old school. They got to get stops and they got to run the ball. They weren't able to do either. I really don't know what to make of this team. I was so high on the Chargers, and 2-3 weeks ago, I was kind of talking about them the way I talked about the Texans earlier. Is it that crazy that they make the AFC Championship game? Did they run out of gas, or was this just a blip and we throw it out and we expect them to be good next week? What did you think of the Chargers? And, of course, we'll give the Buccaneers some props in a bit too as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because I don't get to watch any of this game. I just saw the final and was blown away. The crazy thing about it is I thought I had both these teams figured out. I thought the Chargers were a real player in the AFC, and I thought Tampa Bay was, just going to win the NFC South. But, I mean, they looked great. They blew them out. Evans was a stud. So I really don't know. I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if we need to, how much we need to recalibrate those power rankings versus was just a bad loss for the Chargers, and we should just rank it as a loss, and we don't have to get into the fact that they lost by 23. I really don't know.
Yeah, like a couple games, not surprised that they lost, but just the manner in which they lost.
Right.
Let's see. Let's go back to the Colts real quick, just because I think this comment from Steve is so prescient. He says it's also Anthony Richardson just can't carry a team. He has a 47% completion rate. His only games above 50% this year, the Steelers game where he played 2 drives and the Jets game. And we talked earlier how that Jets defense got dismantled when they lost their leader.
Mm-hmm.
Another one from Steve, and this is funny because we think of Harbaugh as a good coach, but we usually think a second half has more to do with coaching than the original one. He says Chargers are a terrible second half team. This is multiple weeks where they can't close out games or produce at all in the second half. I think the Dobbins injury is really killing them. And I would agree. Running backs don't matter until you don't have a good backup.
Yeah.
And Gus Edwards has been a goal line back for as long as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we were high on Kamani Vidal in best ball season, and he did a good job carrying the load in college. But he's not a game changer at all. So now with all that in mind, JC, I know you don't have to commit yet, but where are you early leaning when the Broncos take on the Chargers? Because that's going to be a very important game for playoff position. Sucks that it's only on 3 days rest, but you guys have heard that soapbox from me before.
Where is it?
In Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles. Wow. LA -3.
If it was Denver, I think that it would be an easy pick.
I agree. That's why I was hoping it would be, so I can make that easy pick.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, like based on what we've seen the past 2 weeks, I feel like you got to go with Denver, but just something about looking at those logos, knowing it's Bo Nix and Sean Payton versus Harbaugh and Herbert. Like, I want to take the Chargers, but I don't think that's a smart play. I think I got to take the 3. I don't know if I think it's a game where I think you need the 3 points.
Yeah. All right.
Normally when it's that low, I normally just say take the money line, but I think in a game like this, it really might come down to those 3 points.
Yeah, and it's a division game. That's where I'm at too.
Mm-hmm.
But it was tough for me to get there because, the Broncos have won 4 games in a row, right? But does that win over the Colts really, right? I mean, I don't know if the team that Denver put out there yesterday would have beaten what Tampa Bay put out yesterday. Is my point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that comeback aspect of the win was good for the Broncos, but yeah, it's certainly nothing too impressive. Also because that game was in Denver, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat a dome team outdoors in December that gave the game away.
In a Mile High Stadium.
Yeah. All right, I don't even know if we want to talk about it. Cardinals, I'm actually, because you like them. I'm not big on the Cardinals, but we talked about winning games that you're supposed to win, and that's what the Cardinals did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
30-17 is James Conner. Pick 75 in best ball was a must-have now if you're running that 0 RB strategy. And he proved why again yesterday. 110 yards with 2 touchdowns. Trey McBride still continues to not find the end zone, but be one of the best tight ends in the league. I would normally skip over this game, but you kind of still like the Cardinals. I kind of think that they're in that Miami Dolphins territory, JC, where they're going to beat these crappy teams, but I don't know if I trust them against another good team. What do you think?
That's exactly the parallel I was going to draw, especially when you go back and look at their schedule. And now that we know fully about the teams they played, I mean, that's a completely fair statement. Here's the thing, though. Their last 3 are against Carolina, the Rams, and San Francisco. So they absolutely should beat San Francisco and Carolina, which means their season might come down to whether or not they can beat the Rams. And while the Rams sure are a better team, it's a divisional game. Both teams have proven rather inconsistent. So I absolutely think they're still live. As crazy as this statement may seem, while I still like the Cardinals to potentially win the division, I'm not betting them on the playoffs, but if the Rams win, I probably will take them in the first round of the playoffs. So I like what we've seen on Arizona. They just defied expectations. They're playing decent ball when they show up, even if it's only against crappy teams, but sometimes that's good enough to get you into the playoffs. And when they're still, I mean, Last I looked, they were like plus 250 to make the playoffs. I don't know where it sits now, but it's got to be in that range, not a better number. I just think it's a bet that's got some good potential with a good payout.
I'll tell you what, JC, I'm not a believer in the Cardinals, but I'm not running to fade them either. I'm aware that I could be unfairly biased against them, and maybe I need to give them some credit. And of course, a win over the Rams would go a long way towards changing my perception of this team. Okay. One that we got wrong. Tomlin as a dog finally failed us, JC. And we saw how much this team is top heavy.
Yeah.
Because without George Pickens, they're no good. And then if they lose TJ Watt, which they might, I mean, it's almost like Detroit, but it's 2 injuries instead of 12.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to have the same impact where actually I think it's worse.
Sure.
If there's no TJ Watt, I can't bet the Steelers again for the rest of the year.
I mean, depending on who they're playing, but sure. Certainly.
And the point spread, of course, right? But I mean, he means so much to that team.
Okay. And look who they got left. Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati. So, no
right.
TJ Watt. I'm probably fading them all 3 of those games.
Yeah. So, I mean, they might be getting like 10 points or something. So, maybe that's the reason that we wouldn't do it. But
they're currently a 6.5 point dog going into Baltimore. I'll probably lay that 6.5.
Oh, and they always do good against Baltimore, huh?
Yeah, it's true. They won their last 4, and they won 8 of their last 9.
But if TJ's not out there, this might be the time that Lamar actually gets things done. So, all right. Well, that was too bad. And we've already talked about how we think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, and they proved it once again.
Yep.
Yeah. So, 12-2 after starting 2-2, 10 weeks in a row.
It's crazy.
And all that A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts. I have an Eagles fan at work. This is a 20-year-old kid. I love making fun of him. And I was making fun of him all week. I go, how much does it suck that you're the 2 best players on your team hate each other? You got such a promising season going down the drain because they can't get along. I go, A.J. Brown's probably calling up Jalen Hurts' girlfriend right now. That's how much they hate each other. And then all that stuff just is all noise.
Yeah.
They look great. Jalen Hurts has one of his best games, at least on tape. I don't know about statistically. And A.J. Brown looked fine. There was no discord. Saquon didn't even have a big game, which, of course, after advancing all those best ball teams, I guess not a surprise when you're going against Pittsburgh and in the first round of the best ball playoffs. But, boy, they just continue to shatter doubters because you go, oh, this team's based on Saquon. If they can't run the ball, Jalen Hurts, one-dimensional, nope. They continue to silence doubters against a good, well-coached team. So, right now it feels like the NFC is the Eagles to lose because of the misfortune happening on that Detroit injury room. The Green Bay Packers, man, I was disappointed in this game, and I told you we pushed this back for our little NFC West talk. Okay, so the Packers beat the Seahawks, right? Okay, that's fine. But the manner in which they lost, and I know Geno Smith went out of the game, but even while he was in the game, they look like 2 different teams. Seattle's got a huge home field advantage. So for them to not be able to take advantage of that really shows you the difference between the NFC North and the NFC West, in my opinion, because the NFC West looks strong when they play each other, but the NFC North, I mean, Jordan Love looked great. Josh Jacobs had a good game. I'm really disappointed. As someone who really likes the Seahawks, I'm wearing Seahawks slippers right now to keep my feet warm, Jason. And I mean, it's just not it. And is Geno going to be out next week? Because Sam Howell actually made a case for Geno Smith being a good player, right? It's like Howell was making fun of Tua, and then those other quarterbacks come in, and I got to rescind my take a little bit. Hey, it can't just be the system because these other guys can't do it. What did you think of that game, and what's the future for the Seattle Seahawks here?
Well, he's uncertainty. They're running some tests. We really don't know what Geno's status is. I've been low on Seahawks all season. They win on that little win streak that let them get a little lead in the West. But I don't know. I just haven't been impressed by anything I've seen out of them this season. I loved Green Bay last night, and they smacked them. It was
good call. I thought it might come down to the points. I thought it could be a close, hard-fought game. I really expected more from Mike McDonald's defense. And, but I'm going to give Green Bay their credit. I'm not even going to downgrade Seattle that much. I'm just going to say Green Bay is a really good team, and that NFC North is really good.
I wouldn't downgrade Seattle too much either, but that's because I already got them so low in my personal power.
Yeah,
rankings.
I know. Me and you were different on them. I thought that they were going to win the NFC West.
But I think Green Bay is definitely your best long shot to win the NFC.
I mean, when it comes down to it, we talk about things that aren't that crazy. They could definitely win it. I mean, they're live against anybody. Especially with Jordan Love. If he has a good game and he avoids mistakes, he can put up points with anybody. And we talked about the Lions. Green Bay health is looking a lot better now.
I think it's either I think it's the Eagles, Rams, or Packers. I think those are realistically the only teams that could win the NFC.
I wouldn't even put the Rams in there.
Okay, if you got to add a third team,
the Lions, if they just got healthy.
I still like the Rams over the Lions.
All right. Well, we'll see how that continues to play out. All right. So that was it for our Sunday wrap up, JC. But we have not one, but two games to talk about tonight. I personally am laying it with the Vikings, but I haven't been good on the Bears at all. I thought they were going to do good against the Niners. That wasn't the case at all. They're 4-9. Things seem to be falling apart. Vikings are 11-2. All you guys think they're a fraud. They're 11-2, but you didn't even mention them in NFC contenders. So it's a great chance for this Minnesota team to make a statement on prime time. I'm laying it with the Vikings, JC. We talked about when Robert Saleh left New York, how, the defensive coordinator was a good defensive coordinator. Now has to be a head coach, and he's not able to focus on the defense all the same. Huge drop off. I thought the Bears were going to get a new coach bump, but it might be the same thing with a guy, I believe his name's Thomas Brown, doing such a good job with Caleb for the 2 weeks that he was the offensive coordinator. Now he's the head coach. Might be too much for a guy who was the quarterback's coach to start the year, and doesn't have any head coaching experience. So huge coaching edge, huge roster edge. I mean, can you make an argument that the Bears would keep it close? What would it be? Just that it's the NFL and nothing's ever this easy?
Yeah, I mean, I've lost money. I don't know how many weeks in a row now by fading the Vikings, and I'm going to keep it up all the way through the Super Bowl if I have to.
Wow.
I don't think the Vikings are that good, and I think the Bears have been playing very well within the division. So, giving me 7 points, I'm going to go ahead and take it. I'm not suggesting the Bears will win outright, but I will absolutely take 7 points. That's where I'm at on this game. And looking at the odds, this is interesting too. Talking about NFC Championship odds, both the Eagles and the Lions are plus 210 to win the NFC. Both the Packers and the Vikings are 7-1.
Well, okay. As much as I like to make fun of Jordan Love and like to promote Sam Darnold, I think the Packers are a better spot there.
Yeah, I think that's a great spot, and I might go bet that right now.
Do you have props for this game?
I can momentarily. What do you want to know?
Just give out some props so I can just run real quick. And I'm old. I got to use the bathroom. So keep breaking down this game. I'll be right back.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, this is gonna be a terrible one because so here's the thing too is we've yet to see a good game out of Caleb Williams statistically, and so every week I look to bet his props when I think the Bears have a shot of winning, but it's just there's no value there. Because if you look at his passing odds, wherever they are, passing yards, over under 223. Had 134 against San Francisco, 256 against Detroit, 340 against Minnesota, 231. I mean, it's all right. It's fine. He's been hitting that number. It's pretty good value then. I'm sorry, I take that all back. But after, he just was kind of sloppy there for a few weeks with the, Jacksonville, Arizona, New England game. But he's come back strong. And I mean, last week he kind of laid an egg, but I think that's kind of opens it up for a nice bounce back spot here. So I was just saying, given those low yardage, the game he had against San Francisco, I don't think that's indicative of the player he is. I just think that's a bad game. So his passing yards sitting at 223.5. I really don't mind the over on that.
All right. Sounds like you like the over there. Do you have any more thoughts on that game before we move on?
No, I don't know what it is. I think it's just become personal for me how much money I've lost on the Vikings that I just hate them that much more. And historically, I like the Vikings.
Well, it looks like we're going to be opposite sides tonight because I'm just going to lay it, bro. Although, I don't know. My projections had the Vikings winning by 10.
Well, there you go, man.
All right. My Las Vegas Raiders, led by Desmond Ridder, take the field against the struggling Atlanta Falcons. And JC, you know my bit. I would love to come on here and trash Kirk Cousins and trash the Atlanta organization. Trash, hey, there's more to football than just quarterbacks and skill players. You got to have good line and good defense too. But this game just screams get right to me for the Falcons. I think that if this game was played last night, I don't think I would be able to do the Kirk Cousins sucks bit. I think, just like Rodgers, right? These older players, they can still put out great performances, especially against inferior competition. And I feel that's what we're getting tonight. We know Cousins struggles with pressure, but Crosby's out. We talk about injuries, but that's 3 of the 4 starting defensive linemen in the scheme. The Raiders have secondary concerns as far as injuries, and it wasn't a good secondary to begin with. So it's a depleted defense that wasn't that good to begin with, going against a team that's really going to have something to prove here on primetime. And those Cousins in primetime myths have been dispelled. Obviously, if you look at his whole career, it's still going to tell you he's terrible against the spread and this and that. But if you just sort it by like the last 3 years, it really hasn't been that bad anymore. I think it's a tired, played out myth. I hate to go against my favorite team, bro. But to me, it's Falcons or pass. I mean, maybe you do the props. Like if this is the NBA show, I'm sure that Tyler could find us a performance double like Cousins to throw over 250 yards and Falcons money line, something like that, which might be a little better. But if I'm just going old man and we're just pretending it's 1982 and there's only sides and totals to bet, give me the Falcons and give me the under. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I've been upset by how many times I can't tell you how many times in my betting career have I sworn off the Falcons. But lost some money on them, but I agree. It just feels like the perfect get right spot for here. I mean, I heard some stats too. And just with Desmond Ridder, like it's bad. It's bad in Vegas. It's simple, simply put. And Ritter's horrible. I don't know how he could win this game. I hope they drop some props for him because I would love to fade them. I mean, the dude, his highest week was last week. He threw for 101 yards. He's just terrible. And also, while I would love to say, Desmond Ridder revenge game, it's just not happening. It's going to be a woeful Monday for Raiders fans.
A Vikings-Falcons moneyline parlay is about -120. What do you think of that?
That's not bad. I think
I might do that.
Also, you probably shop it around. Might be able to do a little bit better on that number. I know you can't, but us here in the other parts of the country can.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple teams, JC, in best ball that are in striking distance. And of course, the number one Brock Bowers fan. I got Brock Bowers.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a chance that he can catapult me into placing tonight? Do you think Bowers will have a big game? Or do you think that the stench that is the play of Desmond Ridder is going to infect the greatest tight end in the game currently and cause me to fall short? Do we have any hope for this Raiders offense?
I have zero hope. I mean, do we have even receiving props available?
It's probably around 68 or 70, I would
Oh my.
assume, with Ritter.
Myers is 59. Bowers is.
Oh, yeah. I have one team too, JC, where I'm advancing, but the guy behind me has Myers, and I'm only like 5 points ahead, and I think I'm dead there.
Yeah, I mean, Bowers under 60.5 receiving yards might be a great prop.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Over 6.5 receptions for Bowers. I would take that under too. I'm going to hammer that. That's my play right there.
Another one too. Do you think Robinson will have a good game? And here's the idea, right? Like when we do the DFS shows, like when I do them with Simon and we're doing a showdown, we do a game script.
Mm-hmm.
Game script for this. Cousins comes out firing. They get up 14 or 17-3. And then it's just the Bijan and Algier show. I mean, I think that's a possibility.
Oh, absolutely.
I kind of like Robinson props tonight too. And the season's on the line. There's no reason to do as much. I got a team with Algier too that I was kind of hoping he'd have a big game, but I don't know if I'm expecting it. I think they got to just give it to their best player, one of the most exciting players in football.
Yeah.
And just let them rock and roll and protect that lead and get a nice, easy win. And yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to place those props because for me, I mean, with this team, whenever, I always bet the wrong guy. I mean, because in Bijan, his props like almost 90 yards, but Algier is like 20.
And I think a lot of people imagine that same game script that I just threw up and probably bet it up since they were put out on Thursday or Friday. I don't know what Bijan opened at, but I'll bet you he's taking money. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to come up with that game script, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So, all right, JC, any other thoughts? Is there any games that you feel like we need to bet right now because the line's going to move? I'm looking over the lines right now. So do you have week 16 pulled up because I'm an overachiever? Is there any games you feel like we should bet right now because the lines are going to move?
I don't know. Do you think we'll see any movement on that Pittsburgh-Baltimore line?
It's so dependent on the injury news.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if you want to jump on that plus 6.5. Or
if Watt's out, I mean, I think that bet is dead.
Oh my gosh, the Rams are -3 in New York playing the Jets.
That was the one that jumped out to me, and it's -119 for me on Bookmaker. And a lot of times your books shadow mine. I think that might be the one when we talk about what we need to bet now. It would be that one.
Yeah,
I think that moves to 3.5.
I don't think. Go ahead and bet it, but I mean -4, 5, 6. I don't really care. Like, I don't think it's going to move to the point where I would no longer want to bet it.
Yeah, but it's just it's just nice to have the best number in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
How about this one, JC? Philadelphia Eagles are only -3, of course, juiced to the 3 as well. Against the Commanders, they look pretty good. Now, traditionally, when Washington was bad and Philadelphia was good, they played them really tough. So maybe that's taken into consideration. But I don't think the Eagles will overlook them like they did last week. And with all this controversy swirling around the locker room, I think it's the media. I think the locker room's fine, right? But I think they do have incentive to put forth a good performance. That's another 3 that I'm considering betting right now.
And now they're tied for the 1 spot in the NFC. So they I agree.
Yeah.
And it's already I'm seeing -3.5 at even money. So that's definitely going to get worse. So you can still catch -3 at in the -110 range. I absolutely would.
I see the Dolphins at -1.5 against the 49ers, JC. Are you eager to back your team here?
Say that again. What's the
Dolphins -1.5 at home against the 49ers?
Oh yeah, Mike McDaniel revenge. Yeah. He doesn't have as much ill will towards them as he does Denver, but I do think he wants to stick it to Shanahan.
Yeah, as much as he wants to. I just wonder if the 49ers, I mean, the guy not going in the game, I don't know. I think that they do have extra rest, though. I wonder if that's going to help them at all. Okay, that was it for my thoughts on this week. Does anything else stick out to you? I mean, Bengals laying 7 to the Browns. Don't care. I mean, not that I'm saying I won't bet it, but I don't think I need to bet it now. Cardinals are laying 4 to the Panthers. Well, what do you do? Like, I definitely want to spend more time looking into that game.
Yeah.
Bills, Patriots, no interest there. We just talked about Eagles, Commanders, Titans, Colts. Not really a lot of interest there, and it's at 4.5, so I'm not really too worried about missing a number. If you were to bet 2 now, the numbers, and I'm not even saying you have to, but I'm just saying if you do like the Rams and you do like the Eagles, I do think those numbers are going to move. So those are the 2 that I would target right now. Mm-hmm. All right, JC, thank you for joining me, man. We weren't able to get Tyler today. He was having a lot of car problems, but Tyler will be with us tomorrow. We will do it at 2 p.m. Eastern. This is the FanSpeak Network. Fanspeak.com is the place to be. JC, some final words before we log off.
If you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done.
I forgot to choose that.